The stats will tell you that Kentucky is one of the unluckiest teams in the country, but I'm here to tell you that's not the case at all.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, apparently, according to the advanced analytics out there, the Wildcats are one of the unluckiest teams in the country. Is that true? I don't think so, and I'll explain what their issues actually are on today's show, as well as kind of speculate over whether or not Kentucky passing on Jon Sumrall, not moving on from Mark Stoops, was the right decision for this program. And you can go ahead and leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Was it the right decision or not? Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers out there who are here with us every single episode here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network. Let's go ahead and get into it. So you guys know, I love KenPom. I really do. It is my favorite website on the planet. Absolutely nothing tops it. I love computer models. I love stats. I really think it helps you analyze the game, especially college basketball, in a way that most casual fans don't. And that's not to say we have an elitist mentality here at Locked On Kentucky. Shoot, a lot of you guys also use the same tools as well. A lot of casual viewers like to look at KenPom as well. But it helps me specifically kind of understand the game a little bit better than maybe I would have. And I was sitting in a coffee shop yesterday, hanging out, and somebody, a friend comes up, and they were asking me what I had on my computer. And of course, I had KenPom up because I was looking at different things to try and talk to you guys about some different stats here on the show. And I was showing them the front page. I was showing them the different things about team pages and what it can track. And yes, it's a computer model that kind of does its own thing. And they pointed out that on the front page, they were like, oh, Kentucky is one of the unluckiest teams in the country. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And if you look on the front page, one of the front-facing stats that KenPom has, you don't even need a subscription to see this, is luck. They have net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, adjusted tempo, luck, and then strength of schedule stats for net rating, O rating, D rating, and then their non-conference net rating as well. Kentucky, according to KenPom, is 341st nationally in the country in luck. And you may say, what on earth does that mean? You may say, well, maybe it has to do with Kentucky has had opponents shoot the ball really well against them that normally don't, most notably Michigan State. Maybe it's like, okay, you expected the defense to be a little bit better or teams to not play as well against the Wildcats in certain periods or certain statistics. You may say that is what this stat is. And this is all the way back from, I believe, 2006, an article on KenPom. These are some old computer models that we're working with that have been tried and true for over 20 plus years now. So whenever you hear people on March say, well, KenPom says blah, 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 you might as well listen to it because it has been a constant for a large portion of a lot of your guys' lives, mine included. Here is what luck is. I'm going to read exactly from this article from, again, I believe 2006. Luck is the deviation in winning percentage between a team's actual record and their expected record using the correlated Gaussian method. I believe that's how you pronounce that. The luck factor has nothing to do with the rating calculation, but a team that is very lucky will tend to be rated lower by my system than their record would suggest. Kentucky's luck is negative 0.117. Negative 0.117. They are the only team in the top 12 with a negative luck differential, and they are easily the worst out of the top 25 in terms of luck. The next closest is actually, I believe, Alabama and Tennessee, and then Florida, other SEC schools, and then St. John's down there as well, alongside the Wildcats once you get further down. The Wildcats, according to the computer models, is one of the most unlucky teams in the country, alongside some other SEC schools here. They are currently 11th, by the way, nationally. For any of you wondering, they have fluctuated between 10 and 12 throughout the course of the last 24 hours, at least based on what I've seen. Offensive rating, still top 17. Defensive rating, still top 12. They play with a fast tempo. They've played some really bad competition so far, but man, their luck has kind of run out on them. And I think anybody watching over the last half decade or so, you can get your 6-7 memes in now. It's honestly been a little longer than that. You would probably agree that the Cats haven't had things consistently go their way, especially whenever it comes to health. And Kim Palm actually writes about this in some different articles. I believe one from 2009. He actually talked about a Louisville squad, about how most of their luck issues were not necessarily statistically baked in to whatever computer model. It was more to do so with the fact that they just didn't have the guys healthy in order to play well. In fact, last season, you could say the same thing about the Cards, but you've been able to say the same thing about Kentucky for, again, 6 or 7 years now. The Wildcats cannot stay healthy. And to be honest with you, if you're going to point to anything and say, well, this is why Kentucky is unlucky, I would say that it's injury. I would say that it's not being able to keep a point guard out there. Jaden Quain still hasn't appeared yet. Mo Diabate's gotten hurt. Trent Noah's gotten hurt. You've had pieces of the rotation that have proven to be valuable in some way or another be out for you. It's frustrating. It's annoying. There's nothing you can really do about it. And it's a luck kind of thing, right? But that's not what this is. That's not what this is. It is a deviation, basically. I'll read it again. Between winning percentage between a team's actual record and their expected record, using, again, whatever mathematical equation that is. I'm here to tell you that Kentucky and their struggles, it's not luck. It's not luck. Even with Jalen Lowe, even with Diabate, even with Jaden Quaint's having not even stepped on the floor yet. It's something different. And a lot of you guys are probably going to agree with me whenever I tell you what it is. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Before we do it, though, first, I need to tell you guys about our friends over at Omaha Steaks. The holidays always feel a little easier whenever you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks almost makes it too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivered handcrafted perfection right to their door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals are huge. The quality is exactly what you hope for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking a whole lot easier. It's the kind of gift that brings people together and you don't need to guess anyone's size. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and use an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, you can use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. All right, continuing along here on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. So we've talked about, apparently, Kentucky is one of the unluckiest teams in the country. And we've discussed what those things could possibly mean. I'm sure a lot of you will have your opinions on it. I don't think they're unlucky because the games that they've played have all been winnable. And they've lost the 2 games that matter, so far, against Louisville and against Michigan State. And the issue, I believe, in both of those games, more so in the Michigan State game, but also still it was prevalent throughout the course of the Louisville game as well, is energy and drive. Some of you may not like Dwayne Johnson. I'm indifferent, but I'll go ahead and tell you, to quote him here, it is about drive. It is about power. Unfortunately, in the biggest moments, Kentucky has not stayed hungry and they have not been devouring. This team has not gotten up and played with the energy and the intensity that they need to in order to win games like against the Spartans, like against the Cards. You got a huge test on Tuesday to see if you can actually get up and play consistent ball. And some of you may say, well, Lance, maybe it's the start to games, like the beginning to games that's the issue. So I actually went just for fun and looked to see what Kentucky was doing in the first 4 minutes of each of their games, each of their quad 1 games, I should say, dating all the way back to the start of last season. So Mark Pope's career so far at UK, between the Duke game and then all the way to now. I actually included the every game here on the schedule so far this season just for fun. Kentucky's net margin, scoring margin, after 4 minutes of play against all their quad one opponents last year and so far this year is +1. If you want to take out all of the different games that they played this season, it's a little lower than that, but it's not significant. It's less about what Kentucky is doing early, because they've gotten off to some hot starts against some good teams. It's about what they do after that under 4 timeout and what they do throughout the course of the middle and closer towards the end of the first half. Kentucky is not making the right adjustments quickly enough. And it's more so, honestly, less about the X's and O's of it and more so about the energy and the drive and the want to. This isn't a luck thing. Michigan State making all of those threes was not a luck thing. It was Kentucky not closing out. It was leaving shooters open. It was daring them to take open shots and make them, and they did. That's not luck. That is reality. You left shooters open, and you paid the price. It was honestly the same against Louisville. Kentucky did not have enough defensive intensity in that game, and it cost them dearly. The Cards have kind of lit it up against everybody so far, but against Kentucky, Kentucky could have done a much better job, I think, of stepping out on the perimeter. Again, more so against Michigan State, but also in the 2 games that they've lost so far. It's not a luck thing. This is not a luck-based problem here. Kentucky needs to have more consistent energy throughout the course of the entire first half in order to set themselves up for better second halves. Last season, a big complaint for Kentucky was that they were having to fight from far behind, double-digit leads that they had to fight and claw their way back from over and over and over again. This team was so out there, hot and cold, and a lot of it had to do with the shooting. That was kind of what that team was built to do. They got hot shooting. They were playing well. They were competing. They were winning. If they were not shooting at a very high rate, at a high efficiency rate, I should say, it was more of a struggle. And if the ball's not going in the hole, how locked in and engaged are you going to be on defense? Sometimes it just didn't work out, right? But you kind of rode the wave. And I said coming into this season, I don't want to ride the wave. I'm tired of riding the wave with this team. And I understand basketball is a game of runs, but if you are going to be as good of a program as you are trying to set yourself out to be, if you're going to spend all this money on all this talent and you're going to do all these things, you have to be able to be a more consistent, high floor type team. And obviously, evidently, through 7 games so far, it's clear we're still riding the wave with this team. I think the more exciting thing about this year's squad is that the problems are more fixable than they were a season ago. A lot of Kentucky's issues last season, I think, were athleticism. It was speed. It wasn't necessarily about energy and want to. Defense is about energy and want to, but there were some issues with that team that they just could not overcome. This year, it's a little bit different. Kentucky's a little bit more athletic. They're a little bit more quick. They may not be as old and as experienced, but that's the great thing about this team is that they can gain that experience over the course of the season, which is why I've continued to say over the last few weeks, my guess is that they're probably going to take their lumps now, and they're going to be hot as crap coming out of March, heading into the postseason. If they can kind of get their stuff together. But they have to get their stuff together first. They have to be able to show that energy, show that drive, be able to sustain a competent first half against good teams consistently, and then be the second half team that you have been, right? Blow them out in the second half. Run them out of the gym. Do the thing that Kentucky used to do to most of their opponents. And I understand, and this is something I have said to kind of argue for Kentucky and their struggles. I understand that college basketball is a lot more difficult of a sport than it was even 10 years ago. A lot more difficult to do what Kentucky has been doing. And a lot of the fan base still doesn't understand that. It's okay. Expectations can be what they are. However, at the same time, if you are going to be who you want to be, if you're going to be teams like Michigan, teams like Purdue, teams like Duke, teams like Iowa State, Houston, UConn, Louisville is stepping up this year. If you're going to be teams like that, then you have to be able to play with the energy and intensity that those squads do night in and night out. You have to be able to. You have to be able to go grab those rebounds if you're Brandon Garrison. You have to be able to knock down, you create open shots for your offense, knowing that you can, by the way. It's clear Kentucky's got the guys to do it. Even without Jalen Lowe, even without Jaden Quains, you can still be a really, really good team. It's about getting all of the guys to play together. So far, I would argue that they have not done that consistently. My 2 data points are against Louisville and Michigan State. But that doesn't mean that they can't. Discarding this team, I think, is a foolish thing to do. It's not luck. It's not happenstance. It's not, oh, well, they just suck. I think it's energy. The team is capable of doing some really special things. They just have to they have to go out there and they have to show it. And a lot of you are hungry for that. My goodness, a lot of you. During the holidays, no less. Super, super negative in the comment section. You got to lighten up a little bit and be optimistic. We got to have hope because it is clear. It is clear this team has a high ceiling. They just might have a little bit of lower floor than we would have wanted them to. And they got to find a way to raise that. And I think they can. I think they can. You can let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And I know a lot of you are going to have something negative to say about that. I'm challenging you to try and find something positive if you can. If not, it's okay. Hey, man, Thanksgiving weekends, sometimes not always for the positive. I can almost guarantee you a chunk of you will be watching this after the Kentucky-Louisville game. And if the Cats win that, which we'll be talking about that tomorrow, if the Cats do end up winning that, and I'm sure a lot of you will probably be a little bit more positive. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about Kentucky football, actually. The state of the program with Stoops, with Jon Sumrall, probably going elsewhere. We don't know at this point. I'll give you my take on what exactly is going on, by the way. We'll get to all of that here in just a little bit. Before we do it, though, I'll tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back. College basketball is back. There's no better place to get in on the action, hoops action, than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on literally everything, from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Keeps every game exciting, especially whenever your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's wrap up today's episode talking a little bit about Jon Sumrall and Kentucky. So the Wildcats, all of a sudden here, have a chance to make a bowl game. And I know the conversations heading into this season were, well, if Kentucky does find a way to make a bowl game, it's a miracle. Reality of the situation is some of the teams that we expected to be better were not as good as we thought they were going to be. Expectations shift. Whether some of you think that's fair or not, to shift things from the preseason to now, I think it's a very logical thing to do. After you get the data, after you get to see the teams play, it's pretty clear. Florida, Auburn, not as good as we thought they were going to be, right? Just simply not as good. And Louisville, here in just a few hours, is beat up. They have come crashing back down to earth. Miller Moss is apparently going to give it a go. They're down to their fourth-string running back. The Cats are coming in playing with a little bit of momentum. I know the loss to Vanderbilt sucked, but they're coming in this game, I think, feeling good. I think they feel pretty good about where they are heading into this one. I think Kentucky's going to win, but that's not the point. That's not what we're here to talk about. Did Kentucky make the wrong decision? Even like we don't know if they're going to fire Stoops or not. My assumption, and I'm pretty confident in this, it's not going to happen. He could walk. He could go to another school. Don't see that happening, but who knows? Did Kentucky make the wrong decision not pulling the trigger and not going after Jon Sumrall? As of right now, and we are recording this early on Saturday morning, just to give you a timestamp, we don't know what's going to happen over the next 24 hours, 48 hours. It's going to be crazy, I bet, in college football. But Auburn is trying to get Sumrall. That is the no-duh. Everyone knows it. They're really close to screwing that up, I think. If they do screw it up, and there's kind of a in-between period where Tulane somehow makes the playoff. They win the AAC championship next week. Tulane makes the playoff. Distractions are between Florida, Ole Miss, if Kiffin goes to LSU or not. If somehow Alabama ends up losing Kalen DeBoer to Penn State, there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, sliding around everywhere. And Jon Sumrall has to kind of take a step back and is being evaluated by more schools than he anticipated. And Kentucky's just sitting back here with Stoops, a guy that tried to leave the program going on, what was that, 3 years ago now? 2.5 years ago? Tried to leave. And ever since then, it has not been good. Did Kentucky make the wrong decision by bailing on the opportunity to go get Sumrall? Because I'll go ahead and tell you, and I don't think any Auburn fan's going to watch this, but if you are, I'm sorry for the reality of your situation, especially after you had to hear from me that Kentucky's a better program. They've lowballed Sumrall. Tigers have. Florida's getting in on it now. Reality is Kentucky can spend money. They can spend money now on whatever coach they want. And you're telling me that in this position, if Auburn was lowballing him, if Florida has been a train wreck of a program as they have been for the last 5 years or so, and Kentucky has found a way to put it together with these kids, and this recruiting class coming in, we need somebody to step in and kind of revitalize some things, man, whether it's Stoops or somebody else. If you're Sumrall, I mean, if the job was open and Kentucky can pay and would for a guy to come back home, why wouldn't you come back to Lexington? Why wouldn't you return? Kentucky could have had a very good opportunity to land Sumrall. And I believe several other media members have said this on Twitter. I'm going to reiterate it here. It's not often that you're in Kentucky's position and a guy that is a sought-after, coveted coach happens to have a deep connection to your program. It's not often. And so now you have to look at it and say, did we screw up? Did we mess this up? Did we miss out on the next great SEC head coach? That's the question. And I want to know what you guys think. A lot of you are probably going to have strong opinions about this. Did Kentucky make the wrong decision sitting on their hands, basically? Did Mitch Barnhart make the wrong decision, just kind of letting things play out as they are? Because I'm going to be honest with you, whether they had a new coach or not, I don't know if they would have moved into 2026 with a ton of confidence. I would have felt a lot better if it had been Sumrall because of the state of Kentucky's recruiting class, because of my lack of faith in them landing competent transfer portal players that can revitalize this thing, man. I don't mean just competent players, period. I mean guys that can change the direction of this program right now, because it is on a decline. It is. I don't know, but I can tell you, they could have had a shot. They could have had a very good shot at getting Jon Sumrall, just based on how the cycle's shaking out and is probably about to shake out. It's about to get crazy, I think. But again, you guys can tell me in the comments below whether you think it was a bad move or not. Okay, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. You can hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless. Someone literally just texted me and said, I bet this person had also not listened to Locked On Kentucky yet. It's so true. They had not. Love you guys.